like I've helped guys out of being really suicidal. I've helped guys who've been raped. I have helped people out of like the worst places, out of being completely crippled, people who've been to 7 years, 7 years of 7 different psychiatrists and therapists and this and that, and been drugged up with everything and nothing worked. And within like 6 weeks, we were able to turn things around. So this work is so powerful. It's so healing. It's needed. It's needed. And we're the ones who know how to do it. So who else is going to do it? Because I do believe that there is a new paradigm of healing that is going to be affected in the world over the next couple of decades.
To another level.
Welcome, guys, to the Student Spotlight. My name is Callum Holt, and today we're joined by Dim Hapa. So Dim's had an actually interesting journey from joining the Australian military and becoming an army officer through to corporate roles, and now he coaches men, where he helps them to release stress, build strong mindsets, and achieve fulfilling goals. So Dim's actually done several of our programs as well with Luke Hawkins. And in addition to a heap of other personal development as well, all right, the stuff with Luke Hawkins is only a fraction of what he's done. And I wanted to bring him on board to share his journey, challenges, victories, and always key strategies that he's using every day. And just because he's an absolute legend. Right? So Dim, welcome to the Student Spotlight. If you could bring everyone up to speed with your journey, where you've come from. Why you got into coaching. Let's get into it, and welcome.
Thank you, Callum. I'm so happy to be chatting with you, man. I would have done it anyway. In terms of me, everyone, thanks for having me. So my name's Dim. I run a men's coaching business here in Sydney. I help guys mostly working in corporate. And these are guys who are struggling with their motivation, with their confidence, not feeling as fulfilled. And I help them develop stronger mindsets and find the fulfillment and organize their life around the things that light them up and help them achieve the meaningful goals and get out of their own way. So that's kind of the stuff that I do. And Callum, you were asking about the journey. Is that what you said?
Yeah, man. I'd love to hear your journey. Look, even before the military, like, yeah, I'd love to go back there and, how'd you get here?
Appreciate you, man. Well, the honest story to everyone listening is that between ages 14 and 21, I used to get like suicidally depressed. It used to happen like every winter, and it was a really difficult time. And that's the honest truth. And I honestly feel like I was very lucky to get through that time. And but going through stuff like that, and I dare say a lot of people listening to this have also been through, their share of hard times. It prompts you to look deeper and learn or look for deeper lessons and a way to understand what's going on. So for me, the journey started where at 21, I went to a 10-day meditation camp, a silent meditation camp in the Blue Mountains called Vipassana. That helped me understand consciousness and being aware of your own mind. And there's a key kind of Buddhist thing that they teach there, which is the mind is the forerunner of all things. And basically from there, I was interested in psychology. And furthermore, I was given a really great book called The Way of the Superior Man. And in that book, and I know you're smiling because you've obviously read it probably many times. And in that book, it gives a really wonderful guide on how to navigate the challenges of life. From there, I was in the army between 18 and 22, and you can start to slowly see the pieces of the puzzle coming together for me, because one of the biggest values that I had in the army that were met when I was in the army was contribution, and another one was camaraderie. Like, I really enjoyed that. And even if you look at the work I do now, I'm still finding ways to meet those needs because they're important to me. And I think that's a big key, by the way, in like doing well. It's knowing what you really enjoy and then making sure that whatever you do contains those elements, because then it's not that hard to be motivated because you sincerely do like it. The journey from there, after the army, I got into corporate, and I personally was never really fulfilled in corporate. Another thing that I did when I was 21, because I was depressed and struggling with being fulfilled, was I went to Costa Rica and I built an orphanage there. Like, I heard that there's this thing that you can do called volunteer travel, and I went to Costa Rica and I helped build an orphanage. And it's obviously super fulfilling. It's like super fulfilling to know that you are making like, there's all these kids running around while you're building up this construction site. And one of the things that we built was like a counseling room, because a lot of these kids, even 4 or 5 years old, had been like crazy abused, and they'd come from troubled households. So you can just imagine how fulfilling an experience like that is, when you're with your bare hands, you are really helping make a positive difference in the world. And then I was going to corporate, where I because of the dissonance between that experience I had and what I was doing in corporate, there was a big gap where I felt very unfulfilled. And so after 4 years in corporate, I achieved a whole bunch of things which were supposed to be really good things, and I still felt really unfulfilled. So at 23, I went to Indonesia to build a kindergarten, to do this stuff again. And at 25, I was still really unfulfilled, and I decided to quit corporate, and I went to Africa, and I went to build homes in Kenya, because for the same reason. And when I was on that journey away, I spent about 6 months overall away, and it was really the personal development stuff which really gave me guidance in a time where no one knew what to say to me. It was The Power of Now by Bartolian, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, The Ways to Be a Man, and all these books. So that's what really got me into the value of personal development. And for me, I got back from Africa, and with the things that I learned, I got back into corporate, because I'm like, you know what, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of property and become financially free so I can go around the world building orphanages. And when I got back, I went from earning 60K a year to 200K a year when I was still 25. And I was like, wow, like, this personal development stuff is like really helping me so much. And so I started to share that on my Instagram. Basically, I just started to share lessons I learned. And I started to have young guys come to me looking for advice. And I started to think, what if I quit corporate and do coaching full time? And along that journey, I think it was 2016 now, I met Luke. I went to Tony Robbins, UPW, and Luke was there. And Luke was saying, hey, I teach this thing called NLP, blah, blah, blah. And Luke, me and Luke are really good friends now. And like, Luke knows the story very well. And I don't think he minds that I tell it. Initially, I totally judged Luke. I was so judgmental. I was so closed off. And I'm like, how is this guy so happy? How is this guy so nice? Like, he must be phony. And I just totally judged.
Yeah.
And so in 2016, I met him, but I kind of wanted nothing to do with him. And then in 2017, I think thanks to the personal development I had done and Tony Robbins, and I had opened up more and had become less judgmental of, because when you're judging someone else, you're really just judging yourself, like a part of yourself. So I saw Lukey again in 2017, and I was much more open to him, and really nice. But I, for whatever reason, wasn't sold on doing NLP. Like, I didn't understand the value of it. But then the next year, this is basically when I was deciding to leave corporate to do this stuff full time. I'm like, well, I know that Luke teaches this stuff and he helps coaches. So I decided to go to Luke. And man, like, initially I was just going to go to his base level thing, because I was still so skeptical. I have a habit of being very skeptical, but then I saw, man, this is the real thing. This guy really cares. And man, he taught me the skills I still use today. So as you kind of mentioned, like, I went to his base level thing, and then I went to NLP mastery, and then I went to Inner Circle. And that's because what he was doing was teaching me the skills, like not just the healing and the coaching skills, but also the business skills to help me do what in my heart I know that I'm meant to do, which is do the coaching. So, with all that being said, that's how I'm here now. I hope that wasn't too long an answer, Cal.
No, that's great. What an answer. That was amazing. I'm curious. Like I've never even like asked you this. I don't think I have. How like how does one go from, you know, whenever you kind of, you know, I guess going through school and everything and being, you know, feeling depressed and all that kind of stuff to, you know what, I'm going to join the military.
Mm.
Like, yeah, how did you end up in the military? And that was such a different time of your life than I know you now. Yeah, how did that happen?
I think there's two parts to that answer. The first part is when I grew up, I was watching Independence Day. It was one of my favorite movies. So I wanted to be like Will Smith, and I was actually doing aeronautical engineering because like I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but then I realized number one, we're probably not going to be fighting aliens. Like where these weapons are going is probably not the best places. And then number two, um, what I liked about the military though was the contribution aspect. It made me feel like, to be honest, at my lowest point when I was depressed, and I really asked myself, what's the point of staying here? The thing that kept me going was the donate, the Red Cross donate blood van. I saw that, and it's like, oh, if you donate blood, you save 3 lives, and I was like, wow, like maybe it's true. Maybe I'm never going to be an aeronautical engineer. Maybe I'm not going to be XYZ. Maybe I'm never going to be all the things that I dreamed of. But if I can just keep myself alive, then at least my blood can help other people. And really, there was the seed that was planted of me wanting to contribute and finding fulfillment and meaning in helping other people. And that led me to thinking, how else can I contribute? And the army was pretty obvious for me as a way to do it. I think the other thing, honestly, with the army, I was 18. I really did view it as personal development. Seriously, like I was like, hey, I'm 18. If I join like officer training, I will literally be around presumably some of the best leaders in Australia, and I'll get trained by them. And I did, and honestly, I'm really grateful for that decision I made, relatively young, to recognize that me investing in doing this will teach me leadership skills that will help me for life. And they really have. Like they help me all throughout corporate, and even if you look at the way I run my retreats now, like you could so tell that Dim has been trained in officer training just because I use the same skills.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I did it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'm sure you can relate to what I'm about to say too. Is as you know, I did engineering as well, but I never actually finished it. I did it for a few years, and technically got about halfway through the course. And sometimes people ask, right? They're like, oh, think about going back and doing it, or was it all a waste of time? Da da da. And I'm like, absolutely not, because the way that I learned to think in engineering, like, yes, I didn't finish it off, but the way that I learned to think has just completely transformed my life. And I think that's like, there's a lot to that in terms of, something like the military and like that as well, is teaching you a way to deal with problems and challenges and interaction with other people.
Yeah, and the exact word is skipping my mind, but it's like almost like making do with what you've got. Like you're becoming resourceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way John DiMartini explains it is he says you're either going to be a victim of your history or you're going to be a master of your destiny, which basically means that you're either going to be sitting there being upset that, oh man, like I wasted 2 years of my life or 3 years of my life doing engineering, or you can see that these skills that I learned have utility, and I'm going to make it my responsibility to find a way to use the skills to give me a cut, an edge above everyone else. you know, and I see that with you, man.
So yeah, and I'm curious as well, like what was the thing for you in leaving the military, like with those kind of values?
Yeah,
I imagine they could be values that, you know, a lot of people that stay for a very long time in the military would have.
yes. Why did I leave?
Yeah.
It was for me, I mean, short answer is it was time for me to go into corporate. That's I just thought that I would um I felt like I had a bit more control over my destiny outside of the military for obvious reasons.
Hmm.
Um, and I felt like I had learned a lot, and I was like, yeah, I want to. And I think at the time I still had a fantasy of what corporate life would be like. You know, I had saw Suits and Billions and whatever all the shows, and I thought it would be a good new adventure.
Yeah.
It turned out different, but that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm curious about that in terms of you know, yeah, what was that like going from, I imagine going from the military into corporate? How was that for you?
I think I was lucky because my first boss ever,
Yeah.
who funnily enough I'm actually speaking to on Tuesday, so this is 10 years later.
Yeah.
Because I kept in touch with him. He's a good guy. He's a South African guy, and if you know, typically with the attitude with South African guys is they're very blunt, they're very upfront. So if they think you're doing shit, he just tells you.
Yeah,
And
that's
he was
true.
great like that. He was just hardcore with me. And in the beginning, I used to hate him because I was like, man, this guy's just way too tough. I'm like a young grad, but he taught me like so many skills. So and he recognized, bless him, that being an army officer and being a project manager is kind of the same job. And so from 22, from being in corporate, he pretty much got me into project management. And so um, I have so much gratitude for this guy because as tough as he was, he recognized how the skill set transferred and he put me in that position straight away. And as a result, um, you know, most people don't become project managers until much later on in life when they've got some experience. And I kind of went straight into it from the beginning.
Mm.
So it helped a lot, to be honest. It helped because I think a big thing that people get caught up in is getting lost in the process and forgetting about the purpose. And basically, in the army, what they teach you, the way they teach you is they call it your 1-up and 2-up commander's intent, which basically means whenever you receive some kind of orders, the first thing to understand is, well, what's the command, like your 1-up boss, what's he actually want? What's the actual purpose of the process that he's giving you? That's number one. And then number two, your boss's boss, what's his real purpose? And when you consider that, your options seem to expand a lot more because then it's like you actually know the greater why of why you're doing something. And then you become a lot smarter when you're on the ground because you know how to flex and flow. It doesn't matter really about the process as such as long as you're meeting the purpose.
Yes.
And that's something that we use in business life today, you know.
Yeah, well, I want to jump on that, and this is going to be like, you know, just jumping forward a little bit, but I really, it's too tempting not to. Is that concept? How do you use that in your coaching business today? Because I feel like that's a huge thing.
Oh man, even when we caught up recently
Yeah.
outside of this podcast, we spoke about this and you gave me some coaching on that, you know. So um, I think, you know, for anyone here who's an aspiring coach, hopefully this is a useful answer.
Mm.
It's number one, starting with who is it that you really care about, that you really want to serve? Like you really do want to have a deep level of kind of love for who you're serving, yeah, which is basically what I'm trying to say is your target market or your client or your avatar. You've got to really care about them, you know, probably in an emotional way where you're emotionally connected. Um, and so even if you were to really ask me what I feel like my purpose is now, and you hear me say it all the time, it's I'm just trying to help the boys. At the end of the day, that's what I'm doing. Seriously, if you strip away all of the formal stuff, Dim's just trying to help the boys. That's you know. And we were just talking, yeah, and we were just talking about one of my programs. just then, like, because I know what I'm good at. I'm good at the healing. I'm good at helping guys find their purpose and their mission and get clear on their why. And I'm good at helping the boys get out of their own way. So I know that's how I add value to my market. But we were just talking about building up a more advanced offering that I have now. And in the spirit of helping the boys, I was able to get various guest speakers that I knew would also help them. So because I try to always keep the whole purpose of why I'm doing it at the forefront of my mind. I think anyone who does that gets access to it. It affords you a lot of creativity on how you can do that. Yeah, instead of getting stuck in a specific purpose, a process. I don't know if Luke's going to get upset with me saying this, but I feel like after you've done timeline therapy enough and done the various healing modalities enough, when you understand the purpose behind it, it helps you become a more powerful healer in what you're doing because you understand. I feel like even you and I have spoken about this, Callum. When you really understand the purpose of what you're doing, it actually allows you to be it's almost flexible and grow even beyond the initial process. Obviously, it's important to become a master of the process first, but I think it affords you, it affords you creativity, and an edge as a result.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love, like, the way I had no idea that they teach that kind of thing in the military, and I'm not sure. I'm sure it stems from, something a long way back. Maybe I don't pronounce this right, but maybe like Tzus Art of War or something like that.
Yeah, it probably is from Tzus Art of War.
Something like that, because it's that concept, like, oh, man, yeah, I cannot. It's super interesting to hear they teach that in the military, and it's also just I cannot reinforce enough how like I use that hourly in my job.
100%.
Like,
you get lost in the process. There's another great mentor of mine. He talks about getting lost in a tinker hole, and especially if there's coaches who are listening to this podcast, it's so tempting to get lost in like doing these little things which they're not actually the 20% that's going to give you the 80% of the results.
totally.
I think especially in the initial stages of building a business, and by the way, I feel like Callum probably has a greater value on business building than Dim does, actually, and that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It just everyone's got different.
That's a good chat, mate. I love it. That's why I love with you.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Like for me, I really did. I'm actually being really real. Like I just wanted to help the boys, and I wanted to be a coach, and I like this. I didn't do it because I like entrepreneurialism or anything, but you've got to learn to love and respect that if you're going to be successful 100%. And I think a lot of people get lost in what's called tinker holes, where they're fiddling around with stuff that doesn't really, it's not really going to affect the bottom line. Yeah. So amen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. It's like, always going to that. That's pretty much my way of solving problems which come up on the minute basis for me, it seems. Is constantly asking like, what is the purpose? What are we trying to achieve here? And I couldn't agree more with you. Is like, and I've used that with when I was doing the mindset coaching as well. I think I just use that a lot to understand processes and and systems. Is trying to, like, instead of just looking, I guess I'll trying to use a metaphor here, and like, instead of looking at like one side of an object, like actually like stepping back and looking at all the different sides and being like, okay, understanding on a higher level what's actually going on. And I used this example with you recently around timeline, right?
Yes. You can even extend that to resolving conflicts in a relationship. Like what you just said, that's how you create synergy in a relationship, from my humble experience, which I think is not a bad experience. Like if you're just fixated on your way that you want the relationship to be, or her way, you just clash. But when you zoom out and you go, hey, what are we really trying to achieve here? And you're not married to the process as much, it gives you the creativity and the freedom to create the synergy where it's not compromised in the middle, but it's actually, you're building 1 + 1 = 11. You're building something more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I do it all the time with, even like with, like generating leads, like something like that, like chugging it down. Like I'm always kind of like, okay, like what's another way of doing this? And thinking like, all right, what's the purpose here? Well, on a high level, we're just trying to like find people and then engage with those people and then give them an opportunity to, move forward.
Yes, so, it's it's understanding the underlying frame of what you're doing, because there's nurturing, and there's many different ways where you can do nurturing. But if you're just doing the process without understanding what you're doing is nurturing, you're going to drop the ball anyway.
You're so restricted. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you're doing the exact right steps, you'll find you may not be getting the result because you've lost the understanding of what you're actually doing in the nurturing phase.
Yeah.
And what you're doing in the sales phase.
Totally. And well, that's a perfect little link you've given me there, mate. to go into with your coaching business. I know on a personal level, it hasn't always been, you haven't just suddenly gone from army, corporate, start a business, $10 million in one day.
Absolutely not.
Tell me about your business journey, like, from the very start, like when you decided, what, I'm going to go help the boys.
Yeah. Thanks, Callum. Like the honest answer, and it's nice, man. Before this podcast started, I asked you, do you want me to be honest with everyone? And you were like, yes, Dim. Like, we did this so we can actually help people, and so be honest. So the truth is, to everyone listening, I'm not really a natural entrepreneur. I'm not really a natural businessman. I'm someone who's that guy that was in high school that was it's a good friend to talk to. So I'm a good healer and a good coach, but I didn't do this. I didn't know I was supposed to be a good businessman. So I sincerely, I do think I got a bit of a boost, thanks to NLP Master Prac, and then 7-figure, Inner Circle, basically, like Luke stuff, because ultimately there's so much, just infinite amount of strategies and whatever. And if you don't have someone giving you some kind of like, do this, you're going to get screwed. So, So I'm obviously eternally grateful for Lukey for that, and the environment. It's not just Lukey; he created a whole ecosystem, which you're part of. If you think about it, Callum, and like you and Luke helped me to this day. So I can't understate how much you guys have helped me in setting everything up and continue to. Let's just be clear on that. In terms of me starting, I think the first thing was getting confidence about the actual product. That was for me personally. And I got that through the training that we did together. In fact, we were in the same Master Prac class, weren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we do NLP together, or?
I feel like we did Master Prac together.
We definitely probably did Master.
Yeah. So I think there's a huge thing to be said about because there's confidence that you can try and fake. And maybe this is just Dim's journey, but for me, I struggled to just fake confidence. Like, for me, the way I get confidence is like, let's field test this again and again and again until like I actually do feel genuinely confident that I do know how to help people. And so being in these healing and coaching environments where it's not just me getting trained, but me also seeing demonstrations of other people getting coached, and all of this, and also just getting coaching hours under my belt, I just started to get confident, at least in the product. When I got more confident in my own product, it helped me sell better. And then it was about, there was a year or more than a year where I really, really, really struggled, mostly because I sucked at selling enough volume. So, and then there was another piece there which I sucked at, which is the messaging and marketing. To be honest, I could go on for 2 hours.
Mate, if you struggle in marketing and struggling in sales.
yeah. Then you're blown, right? And that's what happened to me, right? Like I was blown out of the water, and I especially so in that first year I struggled so much. The other thing I didn't realize was because I was leaving corporate to do this stuff full time, and for everyone listening, basically what happened was I decided to leave corporate to just jump into a full time. I had 30 grand saved. I thought that was enough. But when you're in a world where you don't have a steady paycheck, the money can go real quick. And I didn't recognize, especially because I have a few investment properties, like I have a bit of a higher financial hygiene level just to keep my head above water than most people. So this is the honest truth. Like I really struggled so much. Like I don't want to go into too many details, but I really struggled for like a year while I got better at sales and marketing, in particular marketing, because it was about learning how to message what I do in a way that people understood the value. Because here's the thing, like especially if you are a coach or a healer or a consultant, you know the problem so well, and you know the value of your solution so much. But the issue is often most people are not problem aware. They're symptom aware, but they're not problem aware. Like this is something I learned from you guys. Right? So a key thing is to understand you've got to meet them where they're at, and you've got to understand, like you've got to help them recognize what their symptom, like you've got to understand your market well enough to know what their symptoms are, and then it's your job to help them bridge the knowledge gap to get to understanding what their real problem is. And then they realize, wow, this is my real problem, this is what it's going to cost me, this is how and then Dim's got a solution to it, or Callum or Luke has a solution to it. So it's about I had to go through a big journey of learning market resonance, and I'm still on that journey for sure. In the spirit of that, I think one thing that really helps is the more you can just put yourself out there, the more you can try. And I think maybe something that Callum and I've spoken about before is just don't think of it as failing. Just think of it as almost like it's just you're just like testing a hypothesis. It's like you're in science class and you're testing a hypothesis of what is going to happen. Don't take it so personally. It's just think of it like it's in a scientific way. I've just got to test my hypothesis. Will this market resonance work? Will this work? Will this work? For me, as I got my first clients, I still work with them closely to this day to talk to them about, hey, what do you think about this angle? What do you think about this? And it's really about another big piece of this was thinking about who my target market is, and then I would profile them. And I would really understand, hey, my target market, they really like this stuff. I literally went to their profiles, and I hope you don't mind me. I'm sharing.
No, I was like, how do I interrupt him here and say, go deeper, more specific?
Oh, thank you. Okay,
I was like,
mate,
this is incredible. Like, even chunk it down even lower.
All right. I'll get you step by step.
Give me all of it.
Yeah. So basically, from a step-by-step perspective, the first thing is you got to know who your target market is for sure. By the way, it's scary to get ultra niche, but actually the more ultra niche you get, if you can build a great foundation with them, it's going to give you the strength, the financial strength and all that to expand beyond, and the name and the brand. But the more you can ultra niche, it seems to be the better results that you get. So number one, be brave and get clear on who your target market is, and get ultra niched. Number two, and they're typically a lot of people say your target market is it's you 5 years ago. I've definitely noticed that to be true in my own experience. Another person has said to me, your target market is the people who naturally want to come to you anyway. And if anyone looks at my old clients, there's a really clear theme of the type of guys that come to me. So with those two things being said, I kind of know who my target market is. The next step was I literally went on their Facebook profiles and Instagram profiles, but mostly Facebook, and I profiled them. So I literally got a spreadsheet out, and I'm like, what do they like? And I just copied and pasted all of their likes into a spreadsheet. What's the things that they like? What's the groups that they're part of? Like,
So that's from like in the Facebook, like when you look on their profile, there's like that about section, and under about, there's likes, and they're like all those different pages and stuff, right?
That's exactly what it is. So Facebook, about, go to likes, and then into a spreadsheet. Because here's the thing, we have confirmation bias, and anyone who's done NLP will know we kind of have filters on. So why I'm saying use a spreadsheet is to make sure you don't get interrupted by your confirmation bias. So basically, by going onto that profile and then literally copying and pasting, and I was putting it into groups, literally copying and pasting all my guys' stuff, I noticed a very surprising thing. I couldn't believe it after 2.5, like 3 years or more than 3 years. I know these people. I thought I knew them to a T, but I'm ashamed, to say this, but as a result of doing this profiling, and what I did was I took my top 5 favorite clients and I put them on the spreadsheet. I literally went to their Facebook profiles and I got their picture and I pasted it on the spreadsheet. So I'm looking at them at my top 5 while I'm profiling them. And I'm basically in the about section, in the likes, adding everything to a spreadsheet. And then I grouped them. And what I found overall, the resounding thing, most common that everyone liked, was property investing. And I was like, whoa, like this is my target market. The number one thing that they're interested in is property investing. I'm like, wow, like this is where my target market is. And they're interested in property and obviously wealth and things like this, wealth building. And I had a really good sit down with Luke's head of marketing as well. And he's great. And he basically called, he said, Dim, can we just call one of your favorite customers right now? And I was like, okay, let's call him. Let's see if he answers. He answered. And he asked a really wonderful question to him. He said to my client, what's the thing that will make you happy that you will pay $4,000 for? What would Dim's product need to give you for you to know that you're going to make for you to be so happy to spend $4,000? And basically, despite everything he said before that, when it actually came time to taking out your wallet and paying the money, the thing that he was happy to spend $4,000 for was something that he believed would make him at least 5 times as much money. And what I really loved about that answer was it illustrated then what this guy thinks about is investments, and he cares about wealth. He didn't say, oh, I want to spend as long as I know I get peace of mind, I will spend it. Despite everything that they said before that, the thing that actually made them take out their wallet was something that made them feel like they were making more money as a result. And I'm like, wow, like this is profiling on another level. Yeah. And so this is still early days, and I really pray that I'm not jinxing it by saying this, because I don't want to be prideful or anything like that. But I'm also testing. So very recently, I was very scared, but I said, hey guys, I'm going to do a wealth mindset class. Would anyone be interested? I did basically a week of marketing just off 2 Instagram stories, not much, because I was so nervous about doing it that I didn't really market it much. But I had a bigger turn up rate, like more registrations than I've ever seen in my life for something that I've done, and a bigger turn up rate than I've had. The biggest class I've ever had in my entire life. And that's all thanks to this in-depth profiling that I did, because I saw, wow, this is what my people are interested in. And I'm like, and the challenge that I had was, okay, how do I incorporate what I do, which is the healing and the NLP and all that stuff, with what my guys are actually interested in? Hence, I called it wealth mindset. And I made it really clear. I'm not really talking about what's the best property to buy. I'm talking about mindset, because that's what Dim's good at. And so massive turn up rate. I dropped the ball, Callum, we can talk about this, but it's not going to be perfect. But if you're doing it all in your head, you don't really have something real to work with. So I'm like, look, it's not going to be perfect. Maybe no one's going to show up. Anna joked that, because Anna's mum registered, God bless her, right? and I was like, yeah, bless. And so my mother-in-law registered, and I was so nervous because I'm like, oh man, my mother-in-law's coming now, and it was like, what if it's just mom that shows up? I'm like, then me and her are gonna have the best wealth mindset class ever, because I didn't know what it was gonna be like. But hey, we ran it. People were engaged the whole way through. I think maybe there was only one person that dropped off out of the.
How many people registered?
So I was nervous saying the numbers because
I hope you don't mind the numbers, but
yeah, no, I don't mind. Look, 41 people registered and 38 people showed up, and I'm pretty sure at the end there was at least 36 people still on the call. Yeah. So yeah, after 2 hours.
For anyone watching this, like Dim and I were talking about this beforehand, those kind of numbers, like quick maths in my head, I assume that's like 95%-ish, right? And that is astronomical for 2 pieces of marketing. That is astronomical registrations and an incredible show-up rate, right? We have people that we teach to do masterclass and stuff all the time. Often 30-40% show-up rate is like not too bad, right? And then you make profit off the back end by following up on people.
Yeah.
Right. That is for your first one.
Bless.
Number one, it's extraordinary, but it's also in a lot of ways not extraordinary. And the reason I say that is in terms of that word extraordinary, it's not because you did the work using free tools called AKA Facebook and Google Sheets and some, I don't know, hours of work to profile your customers.
That profiling thing was so important, to recap to people watching, like I had the underlying confidence of knowing I had a good product. And then from there, it was about market resonance, which is like a massive theme that, Luke and Callum and everyone talks about. But the specific techniques, it was literally Google Sheet, Facebook profile, literally just copying and pasting the likes and actually seeing what telling
someone. Did you do like every single one? Because some people have like hundreds of likes.
Oh man, you should see the spreadsheet. There was a lot. There was a lot on it. Yeah, but I did a lot. I don't think I did every single one, but I did a lot. Because I wanted to get around the confirmation bias, because I think a lot of us fall trap to their own biases we have in our own head about what we think that they like. And it was a process of doing the honest work. Because I think here's the thing, even if I asked my target market, because I thought the most effective way, maybe this is just me being lazy, I thought the most effective way was I'll just ask them. But I think even they don't know.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a challenge because you're dealing with and this is where Facebook's mind-boggling is. Sometimes I'm pretty sure there's a section of the Facebook likes that is stuff that people have actually liked, and there's stuff that Facebook is guesstimating they like based on
activity.
Activity, what they post, how long they spend looking at different posts, who they follow, just all this overlapping data. And you're 100% right, is like so often, number one, we think that we know our own customers. We think we do. And so often that's a complete bias. We think oh yeah, they want to get transformed.
No way.
We talked about this about NLP or mindset courses when we did that.
Yes.
So yeah.
And if you think of this is something Luke says in it would have been in NLP, one of the NLPs, but what people value. If you just look at their actions over time, like where they spend their money, like if you look at their honest expenditure of money, their honest expenditure of time, what they'll always find money for, always find time for, always, they'll tend to bring conversations back to, the things that they naturally gravitate towards, that's what they actually value, not what they think they value, but their actions speak louder than words. So, and it's incredibly shamefully obvious now that it looks like I've come to the conclusion. these boys, maybe they'll kick and squirm at the thought of spending $3,000 on mindset coaching, but they're going to find freaking $50,000 to invest in a property. They'll find $100,000 to invest in a property, won't they?
Yeah, and see, this is, and this is diving into psychology and stuff. And this is what I find super interesting is sometimes we think it's like, oh yeah, it's the cost of something, the spending of something. And then you're like, well, hang on, does that demographic or does that niche spend that kind of money in some other area of their life? And the answer pretty very often, and you're a perfect example of this, right? Buying a property. And the reason that you bought a property, and this is the reason a lot of people do, is because they have a certain level of certainty that they will, over 5-10 years, whatever it is, that they will get a greater return on their investment. And so, yeah, man, it's super powerful in terms of just realizing that psychology.
100%. And everyone's got a different demographic. And if you can maybe take one thing from this podcast, it's doing the honest profiling work to see what these people's actions demonstrate that they like, what they invest their time in, what they invest their money in. And then the strategy that seems to have worked for me is aligning what I do in assisting them with that. Because I think that's what real love for your clients is doing. Real love is going, hey man, not only do I have the honest intention of helping them, but I've got to do the extra mile. Maybe it's not even an extra mile. Maybe this is actually what should be standard of going, well, how do I communicate them to in a language that they understand? Because otherwise they're symptom aware, but they are not problem aware. And if they're not problem aware, then you can do a Facebook ad saying that you're going to give them a breakthrough session, but they're not going to know that a breakthrough session is what they need.
100%. And I talked to you about this in terms of there's, putting it really simply, is there's always what people want and what they need. And they are very rarely in alignment with each other.
Yes.
Very rarely. I found that, when I was in the fitness industry all the time, even just in movement, it's what people want is to lose weight. And then, you see them moving and you're like, well, you might want to lose weight, but damn, you need to really spend some time on your core and getting your glutes to actually come to the party.
Yes, but no one goes to the PT to buy better glutes or better core, right? But that's the actual problem, as you're saying.
Yeah.
But you can't market that.
Totally, and that's the key thing, right? And that's what I definitely attribute a lot of your this big change in your success over the last 12 or 6 months has been finally getting into the trenches and doing the work on, okay, who actually is my customer? Really understanding them. And now you're talking their language, you can bring that into every area of your business.
100%. And my wish for anyone listening to this is please take this, because I don't think I appreciated the value of what we're talking about here, and it cost me big time for a whole year, because it sucks to go month to month borrowing rent from your friends, not having enough money for groceries. That's I skimmed over it, but there was such a year of pain before I got here. And I think you got to be not afraid to do the honest work. You got to keep trying. I think it is hard because everyone confidently tells you a strategy that it works for them, but that strategy may not work for you. People confidently told me so many strategies all the time, but I think we've got to step away from the strategies for a second, because it can be overwhelming, and think about the fundamentals. And I think doing the honest profiling of your customer, that is a fundamental. You've got to know the language they speak, no matter what. And you've got to find a way to communicate what you're doing in a way that resonates with them. And there's many ways to do it. And we discussed one.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. So I and this is kind of jumping back there a little bit, but I think it's really important is mindset wise, man. you know, there's plenty of people that, especially in coaching, plenty of people who would kind of be in that position that you've been in where you're not getting results. And especially not getting results and doing the work, because that's particularly demoralizing. And you manage to kind of keep pushing through, assuming that something would change. Like, you know, how have you managed to do that?
How about I talk about what I did during that time, but then also what I did that helped turn things around? Would that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you know, I assume it's like around mindset or other tricks and tips, because there's a lot of coaches who are in that crux of, I'm doing things, I'm not getting results, this sucks, I'm going to give up.
Yeah, amen. And that and Callum and I have both been there, and Callum and I do. I would imagine Callum and I are doing podcasts like this to say there is hope. Like, please keep going because you're doing a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think the number one belief that helped me get through those times was I really do feel like I am meant for this. And I felt it was this is meaningful work. You know, at this point now, like I got to be very careful about how I say this, but like I've helped guys out of being really suicidal. I've helped guys who've been raped. I have helped people out of like the worst places, out of being completely crippled, people who've, you know, been to 7 years, 7 years of 7 different psychiatrists and therapists and this and that, and been drugged up with everything and nothing worked. And within like 6 weeks, we were able to turn things around. So this work is so powerful. It's so healing. It's needed. It's needed. And we're the ones who know how to do it. So who else is going to do it? You know, because I do believe that there is a new paradigm of healing that is going to be affected in the world over the next couple of decades. Honestly, thanks to the work that we're doing, because it does seem to me that the current body of knowledge, or the formal body of knowledge with psychology, has not really been effective. Like one big thing that, like Luke has been one of my biggest mentors. And one of the things that Luke talks about all the time is you can't take a client where you haven't been before. And so I think often at times, maybe, and I'm going to be really careful, and I have deep respect for psychologists because thank God that they exist. But maybe sometimes people don't get results in that, is if that particular psychologist hasn't made the change within themselves first, then they're reading off a textbook, but there's that energetic transmission is not there. But when you're talking to someone who's been through that honest journey themselves, they have something very unique to give, because it's knowledge from, it's almost mentorship, as opposed to just I'm reading from a textbook and prescribing you something. So the exact summary there, the number one belief is, this is really good work. This is really honest work. And if you believe this is your purpose, then don't give up. Step number 2 is understand what your values are. Because, and when I say values, I don't mean integrity and loyalty. When I say values, what I mean is, what are the things that genuinely light you up and don't really take motivation from you to do? So for me, coaching is one of them. Another one is helping the boys, hence they're my target market. Another one is like nature and fulfillment and stuff like that. So hence I run retreat. So everything I do is anchored around, it is honestly an expression of me. It's an expression of my highest values. And without that, you are using too much force. You're not in your power and in your flow. You're using force. So you've got to like align your everything within your circle of influence needs to be aligned to help you. So your mindset, which is basically your belief that you are meant to do this. Number 2, you've got to get out of your own way in terms of making it easier for yourself, in terms of doing things that you actually really enjoy. And for me, a big thing for number 3, which I totally dropped the ball in, and I think this was one of the biggest things that helped me turn things around, was learning to fill my own cup first. And basically, I thought I was doing it, you know, in that every morning I had a nice routine, but at a larger level, I was always worried about money. And I had said this thing to myself, which is I'm never going to go back to corporate. And a big breakthrough for me personally was that in April or March this year, 2021, I was because I had done so bad. It was making almost no money, borrowing money all the time. And I spoke to a really good friend of mine, and I said to her, "Listen, I think I'm going to have to quit coaching and go back to corporate." And then she was like, "Dim, why are you acting like this is such a big failure?" And I said, "Isn't it?" And she goes, "Dim, I remember 2 years ago you said that you wanted to leave corporate so you can go help a bunch of boys and have your own coaching business. And you did that, right? So what's the problem?" And when she said that, it just took so much pressure off my shoulders when I realized this isn't a sprint; it is a marathon. You can't if you expect it to be a fantasy, you will get a nightmare. You have to embrace it for the honest mission that it's going to be, with its goods and its bads. And for me now, it's not about the money. The money is a metric that you use because it's a good metric, but it's always about helping the boys. So I realized in that conversation with her, it's okay to get a side job or whatever to fill my own cup in terms of finances. And so for me, I ended up starting to apply for jobs, but as a result of applying for those, I was getting interviews, but I think just that kind of mindset shift of like, hey, I'm not a total failure. I'm okay. Even if I get a job, it's okay. Um, it allowed me to just look after myself more, and stop treating myself so harshly, and just go, Dim, it's okay. Like you help the boys, but you also you got to look after yourself. And especially if you're going to be a healer, you have to master the art of learning to fill your own cup first before you help others. So for me, even though I never actually ended up getting the corporate job, because I went to the interviews, but I never actually got a job offer. My business started to do a lot better. I think a lot because um, I had better energy when I was filling my own cup first. I found a better marketing strategy, but we kind of touched on it here, which is, you got to profile your people better, you got to message them to them better, and then when you've profiled them better, you can find out where they hang out on Facebook. So here's another technique for people listening. You can find out where they're hanging out on Facebook, which is the groups, and then you can literally just go in there and help answer people's questions. And often at times, and because people are asking questions, so I literally would just open up groups and read through people's questions, and I would message them with a screenshot of their question, message them and say, "Hey, did you find an answer for this? If not, I can help you." And usually in that process, you can take them from um, like their symptom to educating them on what the actual problem is. Yeah. And then you can take them into a sales call. So there's another technique for people watching. So I found another technique there. And then also our boy Callum, no one else other than none other than our boy Callum, connected me also with an Afterpay provider, which is part of Luke's circle. And as a result of that, it took a lot of financial strain off me, because before that, I was just handling payment plans by myself privately. But when we got the Afterpay provider, they give you the payout, in full then and there, and then they manage the payment plan with people. So there was, I think, me taking the strain off myself, and allowing myself to fill my own cup up first. There was finding a new strategy, which was, I think, as a result of the new energy that I had. And number three, it was just paying attention to the financial details and finding a way through that, in combination with the thing that kept me going through the hardest times, which was just going, hey, I'm meant to do this and this is meaningful. Those were the things that was Dim psychology that got me through.
God damn, mate. This is a powerful podcast. I was like, don't interrupt him. This is like, oh, that's amazing. Like absolute gold. Like, yeah, and just massive, like, acknowledgements and, kudos to you, man. Like I really don't know many other people that have persisted through, it's going to be pretty brutal, but persisted through, you know, failure and not working, and just like, you know, not getting anything, not getting anything, and having such good intention and still pushing through those trenches. And yeah, I think there's a lot of gold in here that, you know, I already know several guys that I'm going to refer this podcast to check out, because I think it's really, really powerful. So
thanks, Kellen.
Appreciate you, brother.
Lovely.
I've got a, man, you know, I could have easily have predicted this, that I feel like we could have just turned this into a Joe Rogan 3 or 4 hour.
Oh man, always with you, man.
I've got like a semi-rapid fire section that I always love to finish off on, totally pretty much unrelated. I just think it's a fun thing to somewhat end on. Yeah, when you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
Going to the beach with Anna, my fiance, and eating acai bowls.
I love it. Are you currently reading anything? What are you reading?
At the moment, I'm in between like 3 different books. So, Atomic Habits, Miracle Morning, and Obstacle is the Way. So I'm kind of just, I seem to not read linearly very much anymore. I seem to just read this chapter and then read this chapter. Luke recently gave me Purple Cow, which I've been reading a bit as well, but I haven't read that in the last week. So
yes, Seth Godin.
Seth Godin, yeah.
Yeah, I got one of his as well. Luke gave me that too, actually. He's amazing old school marketing material. Very interesting way of seeing the world. Mate, first concert. Have you been to a concert?
I've been to so many. What a beautiful experience. I think my first concert was U2 and Jay-Z. They played together. It was a beautiful concert. Amazing concert. It was amazing to see, especially in a time where hip-hop wasn't as mainstream as it is now in Australia, to have U2 and Jay-Z come out together and play for 4 hours, and had the respect to see 2 kind of almost polar opposites in genre, the respect that they had for each other, and the collaboration of people it brought together as a result. Man, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I've never thought of those 2 together.
Yeah. How about you, Cal? May I ask?
Yeah, good question. The first one, I think, was to Groove in the Mood, the festival. But I've also been to a couple, like Bliss and Esso.
Cool.
Couple of their ones. Yeah, I love, like, you know, hip hop or like rap. I feel is like, I'm sure there's not overall, but a lot of that I feel like is really good live.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like they just like work the crowd.
Energy's insane.
Yeah. I love those artists that, like, it's not just like you're listening to their song on the radio. They mix it up and they interact and they have a good time.
Dude, Justin Timberlake, when I saw him live, he was playing songs that weren't even his. He was like, oh, I really love this song. How about I just play this? And it was like, it felt like you were with him at a bar and he was just enjoying playing music. Not half, but he played like 3 songs that weren't even his songs and he just wanted to play them. And yeah, it's beautiful.
That's what I mean. Like, I love that. I love that, like, just that real artistic, creative expression is amazing. What's your favorite book?
The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
I love it. A classic. This is always an odd question. Is what's your favorite word?
Love.
Oh, mate.
Can't help it. Jeez, people disconnect.
I'll just that out. What's your first job?
Red Rooster. Worked at Red Rooster, mate. Count on me. $5.50 an hour.
Mate, pulling in the coin.
Yeah, how times have changed. It's a good start.
Religious or spiritual, or neither?
I would imagine more spiritual. My parents are Buddhist, but there was no Buddhist scripture when I was growing up here, so I would go to Catholic. So I kind of grew up with both.
Yeah, cool. Mate, what's one thing you're excited about coming up in 2022?
Hopefully things being open again and going to Date with Destiny with Tony next
There we
year.
go. There we go.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song?
Oh man, another disconnect moment. Brock, get ready to edit this one out. It's Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey.
Oh, mate, I don't love that.
1996. Yeah.
And my favorite question, the last one, is it's a bit of a long one. Bear with me. If you were given a chance to explore the oceans, go to outer space, or visit 50 different countries that you haven't been to already, which one would you choose and why?
I would have to go with the countries, visiting 50 countries. Oh man, I think, I'm going to give a slightly long answer to this.
Yeah.
Here's my humble theory when you're traveling. When you're traveling, no one gives a fuck about who Callum the NLP coach. No one cares about your history, and no one cares about how Callum's going to be the next Tony Robbins. No one cares about your future. When they barely care about your name. When you're traveling, you really are just being you, and it's not about your life story. It's about you just being in the moment. And so I think that traveling, and I think that's why the people that you meet when you're traveling, it's so bonding, because you've dropped all the stories and you're just being you and you're experiencing life. And so I would love to go visit Atlantis under the water, and I would love to see the aliens in space. But there's a lot of beauty here on land. Yeah.
I love it, mate. That's amazing. Oh man, all right, we're going to finish this up because I'm conscious of the time. Where can people find you?
Just on Instagram, Dim Hapa, DIMHAPA, or on Facebook. You can Google me and I'll come up.
I love it. I love it. Very good, mate. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, coming on the Student Spotlight. And yeah, man, I love you, and I think you're amazing.